We continue now at the top of Daf Kuftes Amid Beis in Meseches Bava Kamma. This is Bava Kamma Daf 109b. On the previous Amid, the Gemara was dealing with an apparent contradiction within Mishnayos. The earlier Mishnah said that there is a concept of mechila. The nigzel could be mochel to the gazlan, that which was stolen, and then the gazlan would have no responsibility of hashava, of returning the principal, that which he stole. However, in our Mishnah, it sounds like there is no concept of mechila, because we talk about a situation of a son who steals from his father, and then the father dies, so the son essentially inherits that which he stole, but we say there is no concept of mechila. The son still has to do a hashava in that situation. And the Gemara is now in the middle of Rava's answer to that contradiction. Rava's answer is that both Mishnayos actually are Rabbi Akiva, but Rabbi Akiva makes a distinction. He says in situations where it's others that are being mochel, the nigzal is being mochel to the gazlan, that mechila would be effective, but to be mochel to oneself, that is not possible. And the Gemara now continues, Mechlal de Rabbi Yossi HaGlili Savar, but that would imply, according to Rava, that Rabbi Yossi HaGlili holds, Afilu l'nafshe nami motzi mochel, even to himself, it's possible to have mechila. But the problem is, Ella, but according to that, Gezel Hager de Kamar Achmona, when the Pasuk talks about Gezel Hager, it talks about the fact that you can't find an heir, you can't find anyone to return the stolen property to. So Nesina LeKohanim, the Pasuk says that you give it then to the Kohanim, Hechi Mashkachasla. But according to Rabbi Yossi HaGlili, how can that ever occur? Because in any situation like that, it should be a mechila to oneself, and therefore the person would be totally exempt. The person would not be obligated to return it to the Kohanim, yet the Pasuk seems to say there is a case where the person is obligated to return it to the Kohanim. And Rashi explains, Mechlal de Rabbi Yossi HaGlili Savar Motzi Mochel and Nafshe Afilu Lo Zakfo. It sounds like even if it wasn't converted into a loan, you could be mochel to yourself. And if you can be mochel to oneself, so then again, L'Rava Parchinan, according to Rava, we're asking, when is it ever going to go to the Kohanim? And Tosas explain, Ela Gezel Hager de Kamar Hechi Mashkachas Lahu Adin Dehavi Motzi Lemifrach Betchilas Sugya. The truth is, we could have asked this at the beginning of the Sugya. Rashi already noted this at the beginning of the Sugya, that Ki Kamar Rabbi Yossi HaGlili Lo Shna L'Nafshe V'Lo Shna L'Achrini Motzi Mochel. At the very beginning of the sugya, we suggested that according to Rabbi Yossi HaGlili, there's a possibility of mechila, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's to himself. It doesn't matter if it's to others. But since we had other questions in the interim, lo chash lemifrach, so the Gemara didn't ask that question at that point. So the Gemara is asking the question over here: where are you going to come up with a situation of nesina lekohanim? And the Gemara answers, Amar Rava. Rava says, Hachav b'mayaskin. And here, what are we talking about? Masoras Hashas has a slightly different girsa. Mashkachas la. Here we can find the case as follows. And the case is Keshagazal es hager. Let's say he stole from the ger, v'nishbalo, and then he took the oath, the false oath to the ger. He denied it. V'meis hager, and then the ger, the convert, died. V'hoda la'achar misa, but then he only admits after the ger died. In that situation, devoidna deodi konu Hashem. And in that situation, at the time that he admits, Hashem, so to speak, is kona. When asano lekohanim, and in that particular scenario, that's when it's going to be given to the kohanim. Rashi says konu Hashem. Hashem here refers to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kenechsiv hamushav laHashem laKohen. We'll see the whole pasuk in a moment, but it says it's mushav laHashem, return to Hashem. And who does that go to? It goes to the Kohen. And Rashi continues, Kanu Hashem unasana lekohanim. In that case, Hashem acquires it, so to speak, and it's given to the Kohanim. Aval hoda b'chai hager. But let's say he would admit while the ger was alive, so then nasa etzlo kemilva. Then it's considered to him to be like a milva, like a loan. V'chimayis ger, and therefore, if the ger dies, mochel anafshe, he would actually be able to be mochel to himself. And the Gemara continues, Boy Ravina. Ravina asked the following question, Gezel hagioris mao. What's the halacha by Gezel, not from a male convert, but from a female convert? Do the same halachas apply? Rashi says, Gezel hagioris, he steals from the gioris, shegazel osa v'nishba, v'hodel achar misa. Again, he steals from her, he takes a false oath, and then he admits after she dies. Mahu, what's the halacha? Min nofik la kohanim ozacha ba'iu. In that case, does it go to the kohanim, or is he able to be zocha in it in that situation? And the Gemara explains the question, Ish amar achmana v'lo isha. The pasuk says the word ish, so it sounds like a man, maybe not a woman. It would not apply to a female convert. Odilmar, maybe orche dekrahu. That's just the way the pasuk speaks. It doesn't mean only an ish to the exclusion of a woman. It means to say it doesn't make any difference. It's just any person who does not have an heir. The full pasuk is v'im ein lo ish goel. If there's no redeemer, if there's no inheritor for the man, again we're discussing whether that applies exclusively to a man. Lahashiv ha'asham elaf, to return the asham, which we said refers to the principal. Ha'asham hamushav la'ashem la'kohen milvad el ha'kipurim asher yichaper bo olav. Then it goes on to say, the pasuk goes on to say that it goes to the kohanim, and so that's the question over here by Gioris. And the Gemara says, Amar le Rav Aaron le Ravina. Rav Aaron says to Ravina as follows, Tashma, come in here a proof. The Tanya, as we learned in a brayso, as follows. Ish, it says in the pasuk ish. Ein li elo ish, I only know it applies to a man. Isha minayin, how do we know it applies to a woman? Kishu omer, when it says in the pasuk hamushav, harei kan shnayim, it says the word hamushav, we have over here 2 times. Rashi will explain what that means. Im kain matam ad lomer ish, if so, why does it say in the pasuk ish? Meaning the word hamushav in the pasuk comes to include a woman, and it applies to a gioris as well. So why does it say ish? Why does it say man in the pasuk? And to that the Gemara says, isha tatzarich lachzor acharav. The Brisa says when it comes to a man, then you have to follow him, you have to pursue him. Im yesh lo goel, meaning to say you have to follow and find out whether there are heirs. You have to do research and find out if there's anyone to pay back. Im lav, or if there are no heirs, you have to find out if there are or if there are not. However, katan, when it says ish, it's actually to exclude a minor over here. It means to say ish, an adult. However, when it comes to a katan, when it comes to a minor, you don't need to pursue after him, because in a situation of a minor, it is known, it is clear that there's no one to inherit, because we're talking about a katan here who is a ger. So if the katan is a ger, so there's no relatives other than if you would have children, and since it's impossible for a katan to have children, you don't need to do any research into the situation. You can assume that there are no heirs. And Rashi says, Ish Amar Rachmana, the pasuk says, Ish im ein lo ish goel. Again, it says in the pasuk, im ein lo ish goel, harei kan shnayim. So then the Brisa says that it says hamushav, which is 2. What does that mean? So trei hashavas ksiv. One explanation is it says hashava. It says the idea of returning it 2 times. It says the word lahashiv. It says lahashiv ha'asham elov. And it says the word hamushav la'ashem la'kohen. So that double language is coming to include isha. Lishnachrin, Rashi says another pshat, trei hashamas ksivi. It says the word asham in the pasuk twice. It says lahashiv ha'asham, and it says ha'asham hamushav. So since it says the word asham twice, that comes to include even a giores, tzrichin lachs or achrav. And so then the Brisa said, well, why does it say the word ish then? It means to say by an adult, you have to do research, velishal, you have to ask, im yesh lo banim, if he has children, kodem shetitneu lekohen, before you give it to the kohen. But by a katan, when it comes to a minor, she'ein ish, who's not an ish, biyadua she'ein lo banim, certainly he has no children, yitneu lekohanim, you give it to the kohanim. And the point over here, says Rashi, is it's actually from here that we learn out the katan lav bar olodehu, that a katan, a minor, is not able to have children. We learn that out from this pasuk, b'Sanhedrin b'ben Sora umora, that's in Meseches Sanhedrin. And the Gemara continues, Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, la Hashem la Kohen. Again, it says you give it to Hashem, to the Kohen, in a situation where there are no heirs. And so we understand that to mean Kano Hashem has acquired it. V'nasno lekohanim sheba'oso mishmar, and it's given to the Kohanim that are in that watch. These are the Kohanim that are serving in the Beis HaMikdash at that time. Rashi says, Lakohen sheba'oso mishmar shehu ba l'eschaper, but because he's the one that's going to take it for the kapara purposes. In this situation over here, not only is something being returned, there's also karbonos that are being brought, and so this goes to the Kohen who's in that mishmar. And the Gemara says, Ata omer lakohen sheba'oso mishmar. Now you're saying that it goes to the Kohen who is on duty in the Beis HaMikdash. Awenu ela l'chol kohen sheyir, so maybe it goes to any Kohen that he wants to give it to. And the Gemara says to that, Kishu omer milvad el hakipurim asher yichaper bo olav. Since the pasuk goes on to talk about the kapara, the atonement, the animal for the atonement, harei lakohen sheba'oso mishmar hakasam medaber. It's clear that the pasuk is talking about the Kohen who is serving in the Beis HaMikdash at that time. And Rashi explains, Kishu omer milvad el hakipurim, when it says in the pasuk, besides the el hakipurim, the ram of atonement, mashma lemisha zenitan. It sounds like it's saying to whoever you give the carbon to, that's who you return the stolen property to. Ve'el hakipurim ein yachol lahakriv el hakohen sheba'oso mishmar. Now the el hakipurim is only brought by the Kohen who's serving in the Beis HaMikdash at that time. Kedechsiv, as it's written in the pasuk, levad mimkarov al ha'avos, ani b'shabati v'ata b'shabatcha, mi on my Shabbos, you on your Shabbos, meaning each one in his mishmar when he's serving in the Beis HaMikdash. And the Gemara continues, Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Haresha gozel Kohen. Let's say the person who stole, he himself was a Kohen. Minayin shelo yomar hol v'yotzi lekohanim. From where do we know that he can't say, well, since it's going to the Kohanim anyway, v'arei utachas yadi, and right now it's in my possession, yehei shali, so it should be mine. I don't have to give it to other Kohanim, because I myself am a Kohen. V'dinu ibishal acherim hu zochen, and we should learn it out logically as follows: if from others' property he's able to take possession, b'shal atzmo lo kol shekain, so certainly he should be able to take possession if it belongs to him. And Rabbi Nosson Omer b'lashon acher, Rabbi Nosson says it in a different language. He says again, it should be logical that he should be allowed to take it for another reason. U'ma davar she'ein lo chelak bo ad she'yikonis b'reshuso, if something which he has no portion in it until it enters his reshus, k'sheyikonis l'reshuso, when it does enter his reshus, eino yachal lotzio, it can't be taken away miyado from his hand. So davar sheyesh lo chelak bo, something that he does have a portion in, ad shelo yikonis b'reshuso, before it enters into his reshus, mishenichnas l'reshuso, certainly when it enters into his possession. Isn't it logical to say that somebody else can't take it away from him? That's just another way of saying, shouldn't the Kohen be able to take it if he himself, if the Gazlan himself is a Kohen? And the Brisa says to that, Lo imamrid b'davar she'ein lo chelik bo, when it comes to something which he has no portion in, shekashem she'ein lo chelik bo, kach ein la'acherim chelik bo, just like he has no portion in it, so too others don't have a portion in it. Tomar begezel, whereas when it comes to gezel, shekashem she'yesh lo chelik bo, just like he has a portion in it, kach yesh la'acherim chelik bo, so too others have a portion in it. Ela gezelo yotzim mitachas yado, rather that which he stole does have to leave his possession, u'mischalek l'cholechav ha'kohanim, and it gets divided up among all his brethren, the Kohanim. And Rashi explains, Haresha, a Kohen goes, let's say it's a Kohen who stole Es Hager, it's a Kohen who stole from the Ger. And the question here specifically is, Mishmar Shalom, now it happens to be his shift in the Beis HaMikdash. Bava de la'achar misas Hager, so then he comes and he admits after the death of the Ger, so now he wants to take the stolen property because he is a Kohen who is right now serving in the Beis HaMikdash. And the Brisa presented logical reasons why he should be able to take it. The Brisa said, B'shel Acherim, meaning as follows. Im ha Yisrael mevi gezel Hager, let's say theoretically, a Yisrael would be bringing the Gezel Hager to the Beis HaMikdash. B'mishmar zed, during this shift, when this Kohen is on shift, Hareini notel chelkim achei HaKohanim b'nei HaMishmar. So then we know, of course, this Kohen over here would be able to take his portion because he is right now serving in the Beis HaMikdash. So if that's the case, b'shel atzmi lo kol shekain, if it's my own thing that I'm bringing to the Beis HaMikdash, so certainly she'etel es hakol, certainly I should be able to take everything. That was one logical proof that the Brisa tried to bring. And then the Brisa went on to say another reason why the Kohen should get it, ma'davar she'ein lo chelik bo, just like something which he has no portion in it. What does that mean? Could go in Kohen she'es nadev carbon. Let's say you have a Kohen that donates a carbon to the Beis HaMikdash. Da'amrin l'kaman b'shmait, and we say later on in our sugya, Kohen ba umakriv karbonosa b'chol shosh yirtz. It says that a Kohen can come and bring karbonos anytime he wants. Uvesara v'ora shalo, and the halacha happens to be that the meat and the hide of the animal actually belong to him. It belongs to that Kohen who brought the carbon. Dichsiv, because it's written in the pasuk that way. It says v'ish es kadashav lo yu, a person will take his own kodesh. If he brings his own carbon and he's a Kohen, he gets it. Nimsa she'ein levnei mishmar chelik bo. In that case, the other people of the mishmar don't get it. Mishenichnas l'reshuso ein acher yachal, and when it enters his reshus, others are not able. Shemnasan l'kohen acher shaloso mishmar. The halacha also happens to be, let's say this Kohen who's bringing his own carbon doesn't take it for himself, he gives it to some other Kohen who's serving. So shuven yachal lo tziyum yadu, he can't take it away from him. Shenemar v'isha sher yitein lakohen lo yet, says once it's given to the Kohen, it belongs to that Kohen. So based on that logic, so davar sheyesh lo chelik bo ad shelo nichnas b'reshuso, something which he has a portion in it before it enters his reshus. Shekeven shebo Yisrael v'hevi gezel hager, meaning, let's say Yisrael comes and brings gezel hager lemishmar zet, to this particular shift that's serving in the Beis HaMikdash, afal pi shenasnu le'echad me'achav yesh lo chelik bo, even though it is given to one of his brothers, but he does have a portion in it. He should be able to get it, meaning this particular Kohen. And so therefore the Brisa is arguing that just like he gets it in a situation where it's some Yisrael who stole it, so if he's the thief as well, he should get the chelik. And Rashi continues, Lashon Acher, another way of understanding the initial logic of the Brisa, ma'davar she'ein lo chelik, but what is something that the person has no portion in, could go in Trumas u'Maisros, so it refers to Trumas and Maisros. Mipi Oker Harim, Rashi says he learned that from the mouth of the one who's able to uproot mountains, to explore the depths of the sugya. The point is that Truma and Meiser is something which once he gets it, you can't take it away from him. But then the Gemara said, Kach ein la'acherim chelik bo, you can't learn from Truma and Meiser, because that's something that others also, they don't have that portion in. Lafikach misha nasnu lach mi'akev alecha, that's why by Truma and Meiser, once it's given, it can't be taken away. There's no one to protest. Whereas Tomar begezel hager, whereas when it comes to gezel hager, shu l'chol b'nei mishmar v'kulam tov, and that's something that belongs to all the people of the mishmar, they all can claim it. So in that situation, it can be taken away. Let's say he himself was the Gazlan and also a Kohen. But the Gemara continues, how can you say that if the Gazlan himself was a Kohen who stole from the Ger, how can you say that he cannot keep that which he stole? V'aksib, but it's written in the pasuk, v'ishes kadashav lo yu, it says that when he brings his own carbon, he gets to keep the carbon, and the one who takes the carbon should also be able to take the item that was stolen. As Rashi explains, v'aksiv, v'ishes kadashav v'nafkalon l'kamon minei, we learn later on from this pasuk, shekohen makrav karbonosu b'cholei sheyirtza, that a Kohen, again, like we said earlier, can bring his karbonos anytime he wants, uv'sara v'ora shalo, the meat of the carbon and the hide of the carbon belongs to him. So here also, Hai El Asham, this carbon Asham that's being brought, this ram, carbonus to Kohen, who that's a carbon of the Kohen, V'zachibe, he gets it. V'kevan the Makrav V'zachibe, once he gets that, Gezel Nami Didehu, so the stolen property he should also get. Kedamrin and Milvad El HaKippurim, like it says, besides for the El HaKippurim, means Lamisha Zenit, and whoever gets the carbon is going to get the stolen property as well. So for that reason, if the person who stole is a Kohen, again, stole from the Ger, if the person is a Kohen, he himself should be able to get the stolen property. And the Gemara says, well, here, what are we talking about? The Kohen Tami. We're talking about a Kohen who's Tami, so he can't bring the carbon. He doesn't get the carbon. He's not entitled to the stolen property, as Rashi says, Kohen Tami, Dein Roy Lahakrev El Ha'asham. He's not able to bring the El Ha'asham. In that specific case, he doesn't get the stolen property. The Gemara says, Iba Kohen Tami, but if we're talking about a Kohen who's Tami, Davar Sheyesh Lo Chelek Bo Miyislei, so then the whole argument doesn't make sense, because the Brisa said something which he has a portion, he doesn't have a portion in that situation. As Rashi says, Iba Kohen Tami, Hechi Matzi Lamemer, how did the Brisa say, Davar Sheyesh Lo Chelek Bo, something that he has a portion in? V'akaimlam Bezvachim, but we've established in Meseches Zvachim, De'ein Tami Cholek B'Kadshei HaMikdash, that a Tami person does not divide among the Karbanos of the Beis HaMikdash, among the Kadshim of the Beis HaMikdash. V'afilu Ba'oros, and even when it comes to the hides. V'gezel HaGer Nami, Kadshei HaMikdash, who the Gezel HaGer also is Kadshei HaMikdash, that would not be considered something that he has a Chelek in, so we can't be talking about in this Brisa a Kohen that's Tami. And so rather, the Gemara says, Ella rather, Asya L'Kohen Mistei Achuza. We learn it out, Kohen from Stei Achuza. Rashi explains, Ella Liolam B'Kohen Tar. Really, we are talking about a pure Kohen, a Kohen who's Tar. V'haida Motziin Miyadu, and the reason why we take away the Gezela from him, Mishum Dialfinan Gezera Shava Kohen Mistei Achuza. We actually have a Gezera Shava here. It says Kohen here. It says Kohen by Stei Achuza. V'ishas Kadashav B'mili Achrina Masukma V'ishas Kadashav. That's actually talking about something totally different, that pasuk, and therefore we learn out from Stei Achuza as possible. We learn Mistei Achuza, the Tanyas, we learned in a Brisa, and relevant to Stei Achuza, Achuzaso, it says in the pasuk Achuzaso, Matam Adlomer, what does the pasuk mean, Achuzaso? Minayin l'sadash hayotza l'kohanim b'yovel, v'goalo echad min ha'kohanim. How do we know that if you have a field that goes out to the kohanim in the Yovel year, and one of the kohanim redeem it, Minayin shelo yomar hol v'yotza l'kohanim b'yovel, from where do we know that we shouldn't say, since it goes to the kohanim in Yovel, v'arehi tachas yadi, and it's in my possession, tehei shali, that it should be mine, v'dinu, and it's logical to say that, b'shal acher mani zoch, I can get other property, b'shal atzmi lo kol shekain, my own property, certainly I should be able to take. Talmud Lomer, the pasuk says, kestei hacherim, it says in the pasuk, kestei hacherim, la kohen tia achuzaso, achuza shalo, ve'ein zu shalo, it means achuza shalo, it has to be his inheritance, his heritage, and this is not considered his. Haketza, so therefore, how so? Yotza mitachas yadu, it has to be taken away from him. Umischalekas l'chol echav ha'kohanim, it has to be divided among all his brethren, the kohanim. That's true by Stei Achuza, and we learn just like it's true by Stei Achuza, so too it's true when it comes to Gezel Hager. And Rashi explains Achuzah, so it says La Kohen Tia Hayalo Lamemer. It should have said La Kohen Tia Vidayu Matam Lomar Achuzah. That would have been enough. Why does it say Achuzah? It means as follows: La Sada Hayotza La Kohanim. We're talking about a field that goes to Kohanim. It means Makdish Stei Achuzah. Let's say a person is Makdish. He makes a Stei Achuzah. That means to say an ancestral field. A person makes it Hektish. Velo Goalam in a Hektish. He never redeems it from Hektish. Umachra Gizbar LaAcherim, and then the Gizbar sells it to others. Kishiyotza Miyad Halokech B'Yovel. So it leaves the person who purchased it. It actually leaves that person's possession in the Yovel year. Mischalekes LaKohanim Shel Mishmor Shenichnas Bo Yovel. It actually goes to the Kohanim who are on shift at the entry time of the Yovel year. Shenemar, like it says in the pasuk, Vim lo yigal as asad. It says if he doesn't redeem the field, baila, meaning if the owners don't redeem the field, Vim machar as asad the gizbor lo yigal od bailam. If the field is sold by the gizbor, it can no longer be redeemed by the owner. El v'haya hasad, rather it goes to the kohanim. V'achitanya b'toras kohanim u'erchin. That's learned in Toras Kohanim and in Erchin. V'goal lo echon min hakohanim. When one of the kohanim redeem it, means to say as follows. Kolomar, it means as follows. V'halokeach min hagizbor kohen haya. The person, let's say, who bought it from the Gizbor happens to be a Kohen, and it happens to be that he also is part of the very shift that's on during this Yovel time in the Beis HaMikdash. So now he himself wants to keep the field, because we generally say it's taken away from the Lokeach and given to the other Kohanim. So he's going to make the following logical argument. If I'm able to get a field from another Lokeach, so if I myself am the Lokeach, shouldn't I be able to get it? And so then the Brisa went on to say that is not the case, because the pasuk says, "Kistei acherim lakohen ti achuzaso." We understand that to mean achuza shalo. It's only by his ancestral field, and this is not shalo. This is something again that he purchased, and so therefore it actually leaves his possession and it goes to the other kohanim. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. Tanu Rabban and the rabbis taught, "Minayin lakohen shaba umakriv karbonosu b'chol eisu v'chol shasha yirtza." How do we know that a kohen can bring his own karbonos at any time that he wants? Talmud Lomer, the pasuk says, "Uva b'chol avas nafsho v'sheris." It says that he comes with his soul and he serves in the Beis Hamikdash, and therefore he can bring his karbonos anytime he wants. Uminayin sha'avodasa va'ora shalo. How do we know that it's service? This refers to the meat. How do we know that the meat and the hide belong to him? Talmud Lomer, the pasuk says, "V'ishas kadashav lo yu." It says that the kadash of his karbonos, they belong to him. And so the Brisa says, "Haketzad, how so? Im hoya balmum." Let's say this kohen who's bringing the korban is a balmum, so he can't serve in the Beis Hamikdash. So then nosna lekohen shaba'oso mishmar. So then he actually gives the animal over to the kohen who is working in the Beis Hamikdash at that time. Va'avodasa va'ora shalo, and then its service and its hide, they belong to him. And Rashi explains, Shabo makriv, again, a kohen can bring at any time, im nader karbon or shayamut olav chatos. Let's say he makes a donation of a karbon, or he has to bring a chatos, v'yasham chov, or he has to bring an asham as an obligation. Makriv af v'mishmar she'eno shalo, he's able to bring it even if it's not his time to work in the Beis HaMikdash. She'avodasa means schar avodasa, means the reward for the service. The hainu besar, meaning he gets the meat. And so then it said, im hoya balmum, if he's a balmum, now the halacha by a balmum is roy lechol, so a balmum, a kohen who's a balmum, is able to eat from karbonos. However, ve'en roy lahakriv, however, he's not able to offer karbonos. So then, ein yachol laso shliach la'akrav misha yirtza. So then, he can't just decide that he's going to be the one to bring it. Ela knows not levnei hamishmor, rather he gives it to the people who are serving at that time in the mikdash. V'hoel v'hu roy la'achila, but since he's able to eat from a carbon, karin on bay, we still consider it to be v'ishas kadashav, we still consider it to be his carbon that he can take. Lafikach avoda va'ora shalo. Therefore, the meat, the avoda, which refers to the meat, and the ora, the hide, that belongs to him. Rashi says lashon achar garsin, and there's another possible girsa here that it's avoda va'ora la'anshe mishmor, that actually the meat and the hide go to the people of the mishmor. Kevan dehem hikrivu, since in this situation they're the ones that are actually bringing the carbon because he has a mum, he has a blemish, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kuf Yud Amud Aleph.